what is it you want to be able to bring to the marketplace? Is it in fact going to be an economic driver that people will find value in, that they're willing to pay for?
Welcome to the Grant Wise Show. This podcast helps ordinary real estate agents build extraordinary companies. Let's grow in 3, 2. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grant Wise Show. Very excited for my guest today. We spent a lot of time in pre-show connecting, and I know that we're going to be able to produce some great content for you here today. I've got the one and only Nathan Dart. He is the founder and CEO of Dart Homes. He has a team of 12 agents in the DC metro area, and they are the number 6 team in the state for transactions, the number 18 in the state for sales volume. He's an international speaker, trainer, and coach for Richard Robbins. And today he is my guest on the Grant Wise Show. So Nathan, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Grant. It's good to be here with you.
That's fantastic. Well, let's dive into it, man. Give us the backstory for anybody that may not know you. How did you get to where you are today?
A big story there, right? I'm second generation in the business. I've grown up in this business my entire life. My parents, they quit their full-time jobs and decided that real estate was going to be the best option for them at the time, back in the mid-'80s. Quickly after my dad started selling real estate after quitting his job, he opened up a RE/MAX franchise. He was actually one of the first RE/MAX franchises that were opened in Maryland. That was back in about 85, 86. So I was still young. And so I got to grow up, see what my parents did, and how they had to earn their living and the sacrifices they had to make in order to be able to provide the life that our family had. And I was always so grateful for that, because I really got to learn a lot seeing what it is and the effort that my parents put in to build what it is they built. My dad was the number 1 agent through Maryland through the 90s. And so for me, I only wanted to do one thing growing up. He had me holding his hand in a suit and tie, going to all the conferences. And I took my real estate classes when I was 17. He told me, "Hey, Nate, I appreciate this, that you're licensed now, but you can't start selling real estate till you graduate college." So I graduated from University of Maryland back in 2001, and then never looked back. So I've been selling real estate for quite some time. Over the years, I've had the great opportunity to network and meet some of the greatest agents, obviously not only throughout North America but throughout the world, as mentors, as friends, as colleagues. Firmly believe strongly in coaching and mentoring. In 2009, had the great opportunity to assume my parents' liability with the franchise. After stabilizing.
I like the way you worded that. I had the great opportunity to assume my parents' liabilities.
and take over the franchise, which was awesome. Learn another great learning opportunity in owning a real estate franchise, which I owned and operated for 10 years. During that same period of time, I started to grow a team. That same real estate team is the team that I have today. We've got 12 people on our team. I sold my RE/MAX franchise back in 2018-19 timeframe. And so I could focus more, solely on the team, but also speaking and training, which I still continue to do. With that, with any great business you build it so that you can scale. You build it so that you can make a greater impression of the marketplaces that you serve, making sure that the people that you serve are getting the very best experiences possible, obviously in the relationships that are being built. And I found myself with building a business successfully, which is always what we're looking to do. I found myself with a lot of free time. And I don't know about you, Grant, but it sounds like we have a lot in common, that free time is not good for us. And we don't operate very well with free time. And in that free time, either I do one of 2 different dangerous directions. I either just try to explode everything that I've got and just so I can have the fun of rebuilding it again, or I maybe pursue some other opportunities, which over the last year and a half, I'm the Chief Growth Officer right now for Final Offer. Final Offer is a platform that we launched in late October 2022 in the DC metro area. It is serving to be a potential solution to the problem that we're currently faced with within our industry. So, Grant, I wear a few different hats, in this industry, but I can say for somebody that's grown up in this industry, I love this industry. And I love the people that are in this industry. And I do everything I can to support the industry the very best way possible. And teaching agents to, the importance of being able to offer tremendous value in such fluid times that we're in is going to make a big difference, because our consumers, our clients, they deserve better. It's a great business that we're in, creates a tremendous amount of opportunity for everybody involved in it. I'm grateful to be able to connect with you, Grant, because I know that you feel the same way.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love everything that you got going on. Kindred spirits with how we view free time and entrepreneurship and all these other things. Every time I get on the phone with somebody, it's like, how's it going? I'm like, it's great. I'm like, well, how's this business? I'm like, which one? There's a lot going on right now. It's always fun. I was listening to an Ed Mylett interview the other day, and he said, some of the greatest times of your life were when things were crazy and chaotic. You had so much going on, you couldn't hardly think straight. But when you look back on it, you're like, man, those are the good times. Like, those are the times where we really had the most fun. You got the most accomplished. And so I don't think any of that stuff's bad for you.
Yeah, I certainly agree. It is maybe not the way you feel while you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But looking back, you look at it and say, okay, that was a pivotal time in our lives and we needed that step.
100%. Well, I think that's what people don't get about being an entrepreneur is while it has been made to be something very sexy, like the allure of being an entrepreneur over the last decade has certainly changed. People, I think, today forget that being an entrepreneur sucks like 98% of the time.
And that's being generous. It's probably like 99% of the time, but not more.
I heard Tina Call say this. She said, success is boring. True success is boring. And I think it's really true. I think that's what a lot of people maybe listening to this, because we always talk about going from ordinary to extraordinary, don't get. It's like, well, I want the cars and the houses and the lifestyle. It's like, yeah, but are you ready to do the boring work 98% of the time to get there? Because, and I'd really love for you to speak to this, it's like getting to where you've gotten to put yourself in a position where you can pursue these other opportunities in a time like what's going on right now. Like, take us boots on the ground. How are you navigating the changes? How are you really working towards a future and the future in this industry, given everything that's going on? Take us right to it.
First and foremost, it's commitment. It's the commitment, the desire to know that you've got a place, know that I have a place in this industry and I have no interest in leaving this industry. And it's that commitment, I believe, is going to carry anybody through whatever industry that they're in. Most people can say they're committed, but to say it and actually show up and do it are two completely different things. There's a valuable lesson I learned from my mentor and coach, Richard Robbins. He taught me a long time ago the concept of be, do, have. Understanding the concept that most people live in a life that they say, well, I can't be successful because I don't have this, or I didn't go to that school, or I don't live in that area, or I didn't have that income, or whatever excuse they want to make. Rather than living in a place of saying, the possibility and abundance and knowing what is there for you in the future. Because the reality is we can't change the past. The past is already done. Okay, the past is filled with just excuses. We can't change the present. The present is an element of what we did in the past that got us to where we are today. But the one thing we can control is the future. And in understanding the past, the present, the future, knowing that is the one thing we can control, understanding that in order to have what is that we want to have in our life, we truly today have to commit to becoming somebody different. And until we can commit to becoming somebody different today, we'll never have what is that we want to have in the future. But the commitment of becoming somebody different is only one part of it. Because becoming somebody different is you have to recognize who is that you have to become. What is that type of person? How do they wake up in the morning? What do they do? What are their top 5 things they got to focus on? What are they? Who are they having to become? But also, what is it they have to do? What do they have to execute and do on a consistent basis? Because it's by becoming that person, doing what it is they do, will ensure that you have what it is that you want to have. So that commitment, it's easy to say it, but until you're willing to let go of all the excuses, become somebody different, show up and do something differently than you've ever had to do before, you'll never achieve what it is that you ultimately want to have in your life.
Mm-hmm. Man, it's so good. I love that you start there because I take that right to identity. And I work with John Cheplack. I'm not sure if you know the names. Come top guy in his face, yeah. He says, you want to change your outer world, you got to change your inner world. It sounds like what you're talking about here is I said this earlier. I said, oh, that's a good one. I got to save this. Most people spend their time looking through the window at what everybody else has instead of looking in the mirror and assessing what it is that they need to do and what they need to change so that they can achieve whatever it is that they ultimately want to achieve. And I could not agree more that it is the identity. You go right to identity. Everybody always says you want to be a millionaire, just act like one. I never understood what that meant until I learned about changing my identity. And it's like, oh, okay. What do millionaires think like? What do they act like? What do they eat? Do they work out? How do they manage their money? Man, it's so good. This has to be a philosophy that for somebody that has a team, it sounds like maybe we don't spend most of our time talking about tactic or talking about strategy, because in real estate, there's not a lot of new stuff. Like that's not true. There's new tech like every day, but it's marketing, it's advertising, it's sales, like it's principle. We've been growing real estate companies generally for the same way for decades. So if you're talking about making that commitment and the internal decision that's got to be made, are a lot of your team meetings more about the person, the human, than it is like the automation or the the piece of technology?
It has to be, Grant. It has to be. It's the foundation. Every year we start off doing business plan. But a business plan to me has to start with the foundation of your internal. Understanding it. It's one thing to get excited about. Yeah, well, this year I want to grow by 27%. Okay. Well, what is that going to do? What is that going to do for you? Okay, if it's just a number, who cares? What is that number going to translate into? Is that going to put your children into the school that you want them to go to? Is it going to allow you to be able to buy the car that you need to buy? Is it allowing you to buy that house that you want to buy? What is it allowing? And is there an emotional attachment to what is it you're going to have when you achieve that? Because what I see is that internally, just to your point, is if there's not an emotional attachment to what is it you want to have in your life, it doesn't matter. The emotion will ultimately create the motion. I think Tony Robbins says that. And it's so valuable to be able to understand that. So when I work with my team members, we get really clear on what is it you want to be able to have. When we can establish what we want to have, I want to know there's an emotional connection there, because that's where the actual momentum will occur. But then are you willing to become somebody different and then get clear on what is it you need to do to become that person on a consistent basis, execute, which the tactics and the skills and all that kind of stuff, to have what is it you want to have. And so to be a great leader, and I'm sure we'll get into all this stuff too, but for us to be great leaders is just that we're great coaches. To make a great coach is one, we have to discover. We have to discover the weaknesses of the people that we serve. Once we discover the weaknesses of the people that we serve, we have to train them up on those weaknesses. But most importantly, we have to hold them accountable. And this is what's something that most people aren't willing to do, is they feel bad about holding somebody accountable. Now, when I talk about holding somebody accountable, I'm referring back to the beginning of the year when they said that they wanted to make over $100,000 more this year than they did the previous year so that they could buy that house for their family, so that they could send their son or daughter to that school. And when they're not making and doing the things that they had committed to initially doing, I'm going to ask them to help me understand why. That house that you said was so important to you is no longer important. So it has to start internally as the foundation, because yes, it's important to hold people accountable to appointments, to closing of tasks. Yes, of course. But there's got to be a reason to why they're doing it. Reminding them of that, I think, is critically important.
Mm-hmm. What comes next? Once we understand who it is that we need to become in order to achieve, and you're talking about holding people accountable to that, what do I do next? What's my next step in this process of becoming truly extraordinary?
Well, that's the magic question for everybody, right? We know what we need to do. I mean, this business is fairly easy. Like, you got scripts, you got playbooks, you got blueprints. You can say, do this, 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 and this, and you'll be successful. Yet all of us know exactly what we need to do, but for so many people just don't do it. So the question is, what causes somebody to actually do it where they otherwise know what to do, but they're just not moving it forward? To me, it comes down to passion. And passion's another one of those big words. And it was Darren Hardy that says, he's like, if you look at anybody's job, they don't like 95% of the stuff that they do, but they love the 5%. And it's the 5% that will push them through. Now, passion to me is, yes, it's a big word, but what is passion? Passion to me has to be, and what I feel it is fulfillment. People have to be fulfilled in what is they're doing. Grant, you've talked about all the people that you've served and these coaching clients that have built their businesses to these miraculous levels, which is awesome. But I can assure you, and without you even saying it, every time they hit that peak, they sit back and say, is that it? Is this it? I'm not done because I'm no longer satisfied. Well, that's not fulfillment. Fulfillment to me is the growth. It sounds cliche based on everything we've heard, is that, fulfillment is not in the destination. It's always in the journey, but it's true, because it is through that journey that you get to figure out who you really are as a person. And what is more fulfilling than that? That only comes with growth. And with growth, you truly get to be challenged anytime you're growing. And when you're challenged, you get to figure out who you are as a person. You get to find out your strengths. You get to find out, when being pushed into a corner, or do you have the strength to be able to push back? You get to understand your fight and what you're capable of. When you get pushed down to your lowest level possible, truly get an opportunity to know yourself at an intimate level that most people don't ever see possible. I had a good friend of mine ask me one time, he asked me, Dathan, do you know the definition of intimacy? I said, yeah, I believe I know what intimacy. Well, what does it mean? Well, I feel like I have intimacy with my wife, that we know each other on a very deep personal level. He's like, yeah, okay, well, I get that, Nate. He goes, but let me break down the word intimacy for you. In to me, I see. He says, Nathan, I want you to sit on that. He goes, the greatest level of fulfillment that anybody can have is true intimacy with themselves. And for so many of us, it could be ego or whatever, never lets us truly see ourselves for who we are at an intimate level. And I believe it's with challenges and growth and fight that we truly find our internal strength, intimacy with ourselves, to know ourselves. So the next step, it could be anything for anybody. But I encourage you to take the challenge that you weren't otherwise willing to take. Because it is with that challenge that you will discover the next step. Also discover it's never going to be over. This is just an opportunity for you to be able to continue in your path for growth and greatness.
Love it, man. Deep. In all of your experience, because you've done a lot of coaching, you've done a lot of work with leaders in a couple different countries, right? Like you've really been around and you've seen a lot and you've experienced a lot. Have you found that there are commonalities, common themes, common traits in people that do go on to build something great and people that do not?
Well, I think first and foremost is clarity. I think for any great leader or visionary, there has to be a clear vision of where they want to be able to go. I believe with clarity, that's only one part of it, because that's where, was it Good to Great talks about the difference, it's traction. You need a visionary as well as you need an operator or what have you. Well, visionaries are good for creating the clarity, but they're not always the best one to be the ones executing. But you have to be able to, when you create the clarity, you have to create clear, measurable, and achievable goals to be able to reverse engineer where ultimately you want to be able to go. And when you can create clear, measurable, achievable goals, that's great. Most importantly, you got to hold people accountable. And I think where most people fail is they don't hold people accountable because they're afraid to. Why? I think they don't want to be seen as somebody that is bossing or micromanaging or whatever. But it goes back to that internal driver. I'm not afraid to hold somebody accountable to something that they said that they wanted to do for themselves. I'm not telling somebody what their goals and desires should otherwise be. They're telling me that that's what their goals and desires are. And they told me why. My obligation as a leader is to hold them accountable to the goals, desires, as standards to be met for them, for their family, or whoever it is that they're responsible for.
Do you think that a lot of people fail from a leadership standpoint because they either make holding somebody else accountable about themselves, i.e., I'm not going to hold them accountable because I don't like confrontation, or I don't want to hurt their feelings, or because what you're saying is like, this isn't really about you. It's about what they said that they wanted for their life. You're not doing something to hurt or harm somebody. You're doing something because they made the commitment that this is what they ultimately wanted to achieve. So don't make accountability about you, make it about the other person. Is that kind of like what you're saying from a leadership standpoint?
It's 100% what I'm saying from a leader standpoint. As a leader, what we do is about you. It is not about me. And the more we make it about me and rather than you, then we're never going to be able to grow. Once you can offer clarity and create clear, measurable, achievable goals to be able to move things forward and then hold people accountable to that, that's all extremely important. We've got to be there to help empower the people that we surround ourselves with for them to truly be able to achieve that without any glass ceilings. In a sense. That's where true leverage comes from as a leader, is that we can create it, but a lot of leaders I see, they make the mistakes of saying, well, I'm better at that than anybody else. And so they're unwilling to let go. By being unwilling to let go, you're truly never going to leverage your time. But to be able to let go when you set clear, measurable, achievable goals that you hold people accountable to, let them take their island. Let them be empowered to be able to do what they want to be able to do and need to do, and trust them with it. Without that, you'll never grow and become the leader that you could otherwise be.
Yeah. Somebody listening to this says, this is all awesome. I love what you're saying, but maybe I don't have a team yet, or maybe I don't have anybody I'm managing yet. A lot of what you're saying from a leadership standpoint, I've always said this about love. You can only love somebody else to the extent that you love yourself. Sometimes I feel like the same applies to leadership. You can only lead other people directly to the extent that you can lead yourself. So if you don't have somebody else to manage, is this something that you flip, like we talk about looking in the mirror, and start applying to yourself?
Of course. I mean, you can do that for yourself with clear, measurable, and achievable goals for yourself, and then holding you accountable to yourself. Because if you yourself can't do that, then you certainly can't do it for anybody else. And I think it's so critically important. I think it's such a great point. It's interesting. I have a coach. I would never not have a coach in my life. I believe in coaching. And, people will say, well, why would you ever have a coach? Why wouldn't I have a coach? I need one just to help hold me accountable too, because any coach can operate in a level of 50,000 feet and help kind of guide you as best they can through what you got going on, where so many of us are just stuck in the weeds and we don't know what direction to go in. So, but for you as an individual person that you don't have a coach, well, that is something that you can do internally. Maybe it's through journaling. Maybe it's through what you're reading. Maybe it's the podcast that you're listening to. Let that be your coach. Let that be your guide. Let that be your barometer of where you need to be in life. Because the more you can internalize that, journal it, and see things moving forward, you have a greater contribution that you can make on others as well.
Yeah. I know what my life is like with a coach, and I know what it's like without a coach. I think I choose with a coach. Having lived it, it's like, okay, I've been through moments in my life. It's like, you know what? I got this. I don't need anybody help. And then your life, you wake up one day and it's in turmoil. It's like, wait a second. How did I get here?
I left my coach. What happened to that? Yeah, no, Grant, I couldn't agree more. Coaching has been the most valuable investment experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Somebody might listen to this and say, man, this episode's been really impactful. We've talked about things that are really important, really critical, really deeply meaningful, but you guys haven't talked about marketing or advertising or sales. I think I know the answer to this question, but does it all work?
What? Marketing?
There's so many strategies. Everybody's looking for a strategy. They're looking for a tactic. They're looking for a sales thing. They're looking for an excuse not to get on the phone. Is it true or not? It all works if you do the work.
Well, it all works if you do the work, of course. Without execution, nothing will ever happen, right? But the execution of doing it is only one part of it. But deciding what works for you is critically important, because some people excel and it gives them energy to be on videos and do blog posts and do podcasts. For some people, it gives them energy to go knocking on doors or do cold calling or whatever it may be. Well, what gives you energy when you're going through your marketing efforts and executing it, rather than what takes it away from you? These are things that I want each, your viewers or anybody listening to this is like, just look back and reflect. So where do you find your energy and where does it suck the life out of you? It all works. It's just got to be what works for you. Because if it doesn't work for you, not only you're not going to want to do it, but it's going to come off that way. It's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be genuine. When you can find what works for you, ultimately you're going to be able to scale it because it's authentic and it's real, but you got to track it, right? I mean, Grant, you're a coach. You know this. I look at all my lead sources, and our team, very fortunately, our business is really broken up into three different parts. A third of our business comes from our past clients. Another third of our business comes from the referrals of those past clients. And the other third of our business comes from new business. New business is direct mail. It is online marketing. It is, whatever, the new business. But when tracking new business, which is important to be able to do, I got to understand my returns on my investment. As an example, like my return on investment on my past clients and referrals is like 3,400% return of investment. Well, okay, that's great. But the reality is I can't spend an additional $1,000 to be able to increase my return of investment, right? But when I look at my Zillow spend, well, I'm getting a 278% return of investment on my Zillow spend. I'm getting a 314% return of investment on my Boomtown spend. When I look at those types of investments, then I want to evaluate the returns that I'm getting on those, because many of your viewers as well have said, well, internet leads, that doesn't work. Well, no, it just doesn't work for you. You choose not to call the person back. Okay? Be 50% better and just call them. Makes it that much better. But once again, it just comes down to what gives you energy, what sucks the life out of you. But knowing your numbers are critical. Because remember, in doing this, whether it be real estate or any business you're in, you got to know your numbers.
100%. Obviously, that question is one I know the answer to. It's whatever you decide to do. I like the way that you position this, though, because a lot of people will go out there and they'll try different things. And they say, well, that didn't work. Did it not work? Or, maybe did you not do your part? You either win or you learn. It's no more complex than that. You either wanted that thing or you learned how not to do it. You learned that maybe you didn't like it. You learned that, like you said, maybe you thrive on video and you are afraid of the phone. I don't know what it is, but I could not agree more. It's finding the thing that ultimately you feel is going to help you grow your business. But if you start to notice a trend where nothing works, it may be time to look in the mirror and address the realities of the situation. 100%.
There may be something that's consistent, yes.
Yeah, if you're the common denominator and everything not working, there's probably something else that we should address there for sure. I want to respect your time, and I always like to never show this way. If I've listened to this episode and I'm liking what I'm hearing, I think you kind of gave us the answer here. But what's my first step? If it's like, okay, I want to build something extraordinary. What is step number one? What should I do after listening to this podcast? What's my next steps?
Yeah, if it's just any business in general that you want to get started, you want to reflect. You want to reflect whether or not it's something that you can truly be passionate about, that you're willing to commit to, that you're willing to become somebody different, do what that person has to do in order to ultimately achieve what is that you want to be able to have. That's first and foremost. But what is it you want to be able to bring to the marketplace? Is it in fact going to be an economic driver that people will find value in, that they're willing to pay for? So if we're talking about real estate or just general entrepreneurship, I would say you start there. But it's going to have to come with a commitment. I'll share this. It's something that I share with my kids on a regular basis. There's no chance, there's no fate, no destiny that can circumvent, hinder, or control the firm resolve of your determined soul. I share that with my kids, just as my dad shared it with me. I share it with you and your viewers, is that whatever it is that you want to be able to pursue, there's no chance, no fate, no destiny that can circumvent, hinder, or control the firm resolve your determined soul. But you have to show up and you still have to do it. Mic
drop. Love it, man. Love the conversation. I love all the talking we got to do pre-show. And we probably should hit the record button sooner. But love the conversation that we had through this episode. I know this is not our last conversation, without question. I would love to have you back to talk about what you got going with Final Offer and learn more about that. Because what I learned about it when we were in Nashville together, I thought was just absolutely extraordinary. So I'm excited to bring that back maybe into a conversation. Yeah. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the contributions that you make to the industry. We're living through a very unique time in the real estate space. And as much as things change, they stay the same. What I know about the real estate industry is marketing, advertising, and sales are all based in principles. It doesn't matter if you sell houses, you sell pizzas, you're still going to have to do the same things you've always had to do. And if you can wrap your mind around that and you can make the commitment like you're talking about, I think that no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, if you want to be successful in real estate, you will be successful in real estate. It doesn't matter what the policies are. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter what's going on. If you want it, you get it. And I hope that you do. So Nathan, thanks so much, man. It's meant a lot to me to have you here today. I appreciate all of this.
My pleasure, Grant. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all for continuing to listen to The Grant Wise Show. This has been another epic episode. Make sure you like this, you rate this, review this. Would love to hear your comments. Shoot me a message on Instagram with your questions. Would love to keep the conversation going. I will see you on the next episode. Peace. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant Wise Show. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave us a review, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.